Today on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat, L&H Boats begins production on hull number 1 of their brand new 43.
We wanted a boat that with a profile look looks very similar to our 33. Side by side, it's very apparent that they're an L&H, that they come from the same company.
George Labonte joins John McCormick aboard his 1972 24-foot Proline.
Now, it was obvious that John is really a talented builder and craftsman, and he was not afraid to take on any kind of a project. In fact, it seems like he thrived on challenges.
The experts at TRB tackle installing a very custom one-off dash panel in the 25-foot Contender project.
There's a lot of variables on this project that can go wrong, and everything's got to be perfect for it to work out right.
And finally complete, we meet with Corey Fountain, owner of the classic 23-foot Seacraft transformed at Wildfire Marine, for a day on the water in Savannah, Georgia.
At the end of the day, I wanted something that was different, and that's why we decided to do a 1973 boat and put in some 2020 features.
All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as we follow one-off builds to all-out restorations in Stuart, Florida's Dreamboat District, home to some of the best custom boat builders in the world. From modest to over-the-top, industry experts from the district's premier facilities show how it's done. Fiberglass repair, custom paintwork, engine rigging, electronics installations, and more. And boating editor George Labonte shares the stories of boaters who have already turned their dreams into reality. This is Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
We just started working on the 43 walk-around, the L&H 43 walk-around a year and a half ago. We had talked about doing a larger version of the L&H for a long time. Back in the early 2000s, we did some serious work on it. And then because of the demand for the 33, and then we're a small shop, we had a backlog of a lot of 33s that were sold, and so we stayed busy building 33s. Well, we've been building the L&H 33 since 1991. We've got 38 boats out on the water. It's a very popular design, and I would have my opinion of it obviously a little bit tainted because owning it and building them. But I was happy when we started building the boat, when people started coming back, and in particular professional boat captains started coming back and saying, hey, I just delivered one of those boats up the East Coast a couple weeks ago, and what a fantastic ride, what a surprise for a boat of that size. And once you got a few of those back again, you start realizing, hey, we've got something that's pretty good here. So, and we just have continued to not reinvent the wheel, but just perfect it. Small details here and there make the boat better, a system work that's a little tighter, a little cleaner, and products that have changed over time that are a better mousetrap. We certainly want to use that and continue to let the boat evolve into a better boat. But having said that, and watched several other companies produce larger versions of walk-arounds with relative success to them, we kind of changed our attitude as well and decided that we wanted to jump in the game too and start producing a bigger boat. We started it with about a 40-foot range boat. We wanted a boat that was significantly bigger than the 33, but not so large that it would require a large crew to operate the boat. We wanted a boat that with a profile look looks very similar to our 33. A lot of features of it we want to be very similar so that, side by side, it's very apparent that they're an L&H, that they come from the same company. We didn't want to build two vastly different looking boats. We ended up with a 43-foot boat. It's got a 15-foot beam on it, which is, again, very similar to our 33, which has a very big beam on it. It's going to be a fiberglass cord boat, but it's done without molds, so it's a different construction technique. The boat's built upside down for the reasons that it's easier to construct upside down, easier to sand, easier to fare. Everything's easier about it when it's upside down. Obviously, we can't finish the boat that way. So comes the day when we're ready to turn the boat over, and that's probably, aside from the day you splash the boat in the water, that's probably the second biggest day. It's a little nerve-wracking. It's one of those things that we're not in control of it, so we have to watch it. We bring in the crane people and their expertise. But it's a tried and true technique, and it's been used forever. And every once in a while something goes wrong, but most of the time everything goes very smoothly, as it did with ours. Once we rolled it over, we started construction of the deck jig, and that was done in the same fashion using a CNC router cut jig. But right now we're at the point where we're finishing up the fabrication on the outside of the boat, working on the covering boards, in particular working on the cockpit area. We're within a week or two of getting the cockpit in the boat. The boat is scheduled to be a charter boat, a commercial charter boat out of the North Carolina area. So the captain and owner doesn't want a really fancy boat, you know, an attractive boat, but he doesn't want to be a slave to teak and this type of person. Obviously, they want a boat that's going to be low maintenance and something to keep up relatively easy.
When we come back, George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner John McCormick aboard his 1972 24-foot Pro Line in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment. This segment brought to you by Fiberglass Coatings, the largest selection of fiberglass materials in the United States.
FGCI is a leading supplier of composite materials, family-owned for over 60 years and headquartered right here in Florida. We have the materials and technical expertise to service manufacturers, repair professionals, and DIYers alike. Our gel coat color matching is a favorite of seasoned professionals and weekend warriors. Access our online store at fgci.com, call to speak with a product specialist, or visit our stores in Fort Lauderdale or St. Petersburg. FGCI is your partner on boat projects big and small.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman boating editor George Labonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
Today brings us to Crystal River to meet up with John and Adam McCormick and their dog Crockett. John has completed an extensive rebuild of a classic 1972 24 Pro Line flatback. Now, the flatback style of boat is a really popular hull design on the West Coast, especially for guides, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons is this is a flat bottom boat that's able to float very shallow and get across a lot of the shallow water hazards that you're going to find over there, such as oyster bars. The shallow water capability and the inherent stability of the boat that you're going to find in a boat of this size, a 24-foot boat, suits that area perfectly, especially for guides.
So when I found my Pro Line, took me 2 years to talk the guy into letting me have it. It was basically, I found it in an old abandoned equipment yard. It hadn't been in the water in probably 5 to 10 years. The way I wanted to build the boat, probably could afford it, but I didn't want to spend the money to pay someone else to do something that I was probably capable of doing myself, because my history is building, fabricating, construction. I don't know anything I haven't been able to build that I've run across in my life. I just thoroughly enjoy building and making things. We took the boat, gutted it completely right to the floor, took the stringers out. All I started with was basically a shell. I knew I wanted to build it back with composite material to where I had no wood in the boat. So the boat's completely built back with composite material, the stringers, the floor, the transom. I'm getting to the point where I've got to put the pretty finish on it. I didn't have the means for spraying it, so I contracted with Rob Young at Young Boats in English to spray my boat and make it look like a brand new boat, put the final touch to it. And after that, we brought it back to the shop and started rigging it. We've got a porta bracket on a 175 Suzuki. It'll float in 10 inches of water, but running, I've probably not driven it in probably less than 16 because I just don't want to take a chance. Moving forward, my helm, my seats, I started out with a cardboard box and then took my different gauges and placed them in my radio and drew them out on the cardboard top. And once I decided that was what I wanted it to look like, then I started fabricating the compartment. It's all aluminum, everything's aluminum and powder coated.
Now, when John was constructing the deck layout on this boat, I think he was way ahead of his time. In fact, the boat's been completed for several years, and the riser-style box of helm on this boat, this may have been the first boat over on the West Coast to utilize that feature.
I raised a box mainly to give myself a dry storage area for my batteries, my power pole pump, my trim tab pumps, to keep them dry, but yet it raises me up a little bit to see out in front for sandbars. And we've got tons of oyster bars around Crystal River. The way I've got the boat set up, it has a much larger front deck than what originally was. There's a lot of times in the winter we're going to fish holes or points. The power pole anchors us where we want to anchor, and as large as my deck is in the front, 2 people can fish up there easily. I've got to mention my #1 sidekick. This is Crockett. He's an English cocker. He was born and bred for quail hunting, but he's been known to point some redfish. He loves my boat. He gets up there on that riser under my console, and he'll ride for hours. This here, he's my #1 buddy. He goes where I go.
Now, it was obvious that John is really a talented builder and craftsman, and he was not afraid to take on any kind of a project. In fact, it seems like he thrived on challenges. And that was evident in everything we saw. I mean, throughout the day, we saw building that he had completed, a houseboat he built, just projects around the house and on the dock, and the boat, obviously. This is a guy who was not afraid to take on any project. We get to travel all over the state of Florida filming these one-man Dreamboat segments, and today was really a great day. Crystal River is a beautiful area, and I was so happy to be able to spend the day on this boat and just enjoy a little bit of history and fish in the area where that boat was born, and also be able to go out there and wet a line and catch a nice fish, too.
After an initial investment of $1,000 and spending $35,000 on repairs and custom modifications, the cost of John's Dreamboat comes to a total of $36,000. When we return, the team at Two Rivers Boat Works encounters the most daunting task yet on the 25-foot Contender project. This segment brought to you by Pacer Group, marine-grade electrical wire, components, and systems.
For more than 30 years, Pacer Group has been the most trusted provider of wire, cable, and electrical products to the top marine manufacturers. All of our wire and cable is made in the USA to ensure it's the best in the industry. Pacer Group provides the highest quality electrical products to be found in one place. You can order with us at pacergroup.net. Shop online and ship, or pick up your web order within an hour at our Hollywood, Florida location.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman, Project Dreamboat. Join us as TRB's expert technicians work to carefully install the custom dash assembly on the 25-foot Contender project.
So one of the projects that I was personally involved with on the Contender 25 project was the design and implementation of the new custom dash panel. It's a panel that I haven't seen on a boat before. I think it's pretty unique. My plastic guy really doesn't want to make another one of these panels because it was so complicated to produce. So the guys installing the panel do not have the slightest margin of error. It's sort of one shot and it has to be done.
All right, so on the 25-foot Contender, we're currently working on a custom dash to be installed on the boat. This dash is going to be a half-inch piece of acrylic where all of the instruments are going to be recessed into the dash, and the dash itself is going to be recessed into the console of the boat. There's a lot of variables on this project that can go wrong, and everything's got to be perfect for it to work out right.
I came in and they told me what was going on with the vessel, and they told me what they wanted to do, and we've never done anything like that here before, and I've never done anything like that personally either as far as the dash goes. I basically had to make cuts in the dash that was going to allow for all of the new electronics and all of the background LED lighting and all of that. It had to be down to like the 32nd because the helm wasn't completely flat. in the acrylic panel was.
The whole goal was to make it look like one flat surface across the whole front of the dash. So making sure that the instruments were set at the right depth and the right orientation was definitely a challenge to make sure that this thing came out the way that it was supposed to.
After we had the screens cut out, I had to shim the screens out about a half and then 3/8, and it was crazy Wonka's measurements, but we got it. After I dry fit everything, that's when everything got like crazy, you know what I mean? Because it was like, all right, you got one shot.
The back of the panel is painted, and that's also where the engraving is done for the backlit portion of it. So if that gets scratched, that's something that needs to be repaired, and just adds a whole nother level of difficulty and cautionary measures that need to be taken when we're handling this.
I had to make sure that panel was 100% perfect. So I had to take tape and trim everything out and measure all my tape marks and everything else, because my LED fixtures in the back, it had to glow past the actual engraving, but not past anything else.
We've done plenty of dry fitting on this panel. We knew when we went to go put it in that it was going to go in right. So the next thing that we had to make sure was we weren't going to make a mess when we were gluing the panel in.
I prepped everything that I could possibly think of to prep. As far as cover and protect, I did. Black 4200, if that's on anything white, it'll stain. It doesn't even matter if you clean it and clean it and clean it, it's staining.
We did a lot of cover and protecting. We taped everything up. We did everything that we know to do to make sure that we're not going to make a mess of things when we're working.
I put 4200 around the outside, and I put globs of 5200 behind the panel, in the middle of the panel. So that way it would have a tough bond, and everything else was really for waterproofing and, longevity and the look, But we glued that down, and we had everything glued, and I placed everything. So I was holding it, and I had Nate grab some tape, and we just started holding back tight and pulling like a ratchet strap almost, on each side, and applied all of the adhesive tape. It was one of my first big tasks here because it hasn't been done. So it was kind of a make or break moment for, I think, everybody. The dry fitting over and over was key.
So as I've mentioned, this panel was really complicated to make because you've got to start off with a clear piece of acrylic and you've got to make it black. Then on that painted surface, we have it laser etched out. And that laser etching then is backlit, and that's where you see all, the labels for the switches and the contender label in the side. It's really come out very, very nicely. It's installed beautifully, and I'm pretty sure that Mike's going to get a few compliments about the panel, but most importantly, I think he's going to enjoy looking at it and be very proud of it.
When we return, we meet with Corey Fountain, proud owner of the 23-foot Seacraft fully restored and customized at Wildfire Marine. This segment brought to you by Suzuki Marine, the ultimate outboard motor.
Go to SuzukiMarine.com to find a dealer near you.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman, Project Dreamboat. Join us as we head out with Corey Fountain and his family aboard their completely transformed 23-foot Seacraft.
We just finished working on Corey's 23 Seacraft. It was a little bit of a different project that we normally do. Basically, the whole boat was done except for the fiberglass hull itself. But all in all, it turned out to be a pretty good project. With the Armstrong bracket, twin engine, it should run really well. Debbie completely rewired the entire boat, used all Pacer Marine tinned wire. They also furnish all of our switches for our switch panels. We finished it off, with the taco rub rail, stainless steel rub rail that always looks good on any boat.
And I think he's going to be really happy with the boat. He's got a nice package. It's going to be good for a long time. His kids will be enjoying that boat when he's done with it.
Yeah, so 4 years ago, I decided that, being from Savannah, I always heard about sea crafts, classic sea crafts, and that's why we decided to do a 1973 boat and put in some 2020 features. Being in the fact that we have 2 kids and they want to bring friends on the boat, forward seating was a great option, gives us a little bit more space, good storage, and at the end of the day, there's no one in Savannah who has 1973 Seacraft with forward seating. So Mike's wife, Debbie, does all of his wiring, and she did a fantastic job. It's all labeled really nicely. It's easy to get to, very easy to work on. So if we ever have an issue, it'll be nice to be able to get to it and figure out what's going on. She did a very nice job labeling everything, and we're very happy with the wiring. I will definitely say that Bobby Birdsall did a great job. I really appreciate him being personally involved in the project, taking the time to really look at what's going on, give me some good counsel on how he would do it if it was his own boat, and I feel like he did it exactly like he would if it was his Seacraft. So he was great to work with. There's no doubt that the twin 150 Suzukis have plenty of power to jump out. They run great. At 30 miles an hour, you're burning right at 10 gallons per hour. I mean, it's very good performance, and the boat at top speed, it runs about 52 miles an hour, so it cruises very nicely. But at the end of the day, if you really need to get going, it'll run. The Armstrong bracket is fantastic. It gives us a little bit more room, gets the engines further away from us, and they're very quiet. My family does a lot of tubing. My kid likes a tube. So having the bracket back there gives you a place to get off, get in the water. It's safe. So we like the closed transom and the bracket for sure. For us, we live in a beautiful place, the landings here in Savannah, and we have a marina in our neighborhood, so you just put the boat in and we can go down to the Savannah Yacht Club. It takes 10-15 minutes from here, and hang out with our family. That's what we enjoy doing. We have some drinks and everybody has a good time. We enjoy just hanging out with our friends and really bouncing from dock to dock and saying hello. And Luke is 12 and Molly's 15. We want them to enjoy boating as a group and with their friends, and we'll probably get them with a 15-foot whaler to get started. But at the end of the day, certainly the boat is about the family. It's for Molly and Luke, and I'd love for them to be able to deal with it and enjoy it and take it to the yacht club, take it to friends' houses, and just be out on the water having a good time.
Next week on Florida Sportsman, Project Dreamboat. The team at Wildfire Marine begins work on a 23-foot Seacraft with major wiring issues. L&H makes progress on the 43-foot project, fabricating custom parts for the build. George Labonte joins Chris Fischetti aboard his custom 22 Pathfinder. And the 25-foot contender at TRB is finalized and put to the test.